Roger Kinney, a man charged with murder here in Clark County, went in front of a judge today.
We are hearing from 3 soldiers who sprang to action after a bride-to-be and her sister were stabbed at 4th Street Live over the weekend in Louisville. And Lexington police searching for an inmate who walked away from the Blackburn Correctional Complex this afternoon.
Tracking, alerting, protecting. WKYT News starts now with breaking news.
Good afternoon. This has just come in. A 3-judge panel with the U.S. 6th Circuit Court of Appeals has just issued a ruling involving Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis.
Davis is being sued by the ACLU for failing to issue marriage licenses following the Supreme Court's ruling legalizing same-sex marriages nationwide. A federal judge issued an injunction earlier this month ordering her to comply with the ruling. Davis still refused and appealed the injunction to the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. This afternoon, that judicial panel denied her motion to stay the judge's order. The temporary stay remains in effect until August 31st. We'll have much more on the ruling ahead on WKYT News at 5. Police and corrections officials are searching for an inmate who walked away from Blackburn Prison this afternoon.
The Department of Corrections says that 26-year-old Justin Canada walked away from Blackburn at 2 o'clock this afternoon. He is the 2nd inmate in just over a week to walk away from the minimum security prison. Garrett Weimer has our top story at 4:30.
The Department of Corrections says Justin Canada walked away from Blackburn here at around 2 o'clock this afternoon. He's the 2nd inmate in just over a week to walk away from the minimum security prison here in Lexington. The Department of Corrections says Canada was serving a 15-year sentence for convictions including robbery and wanton endangerment out of McCreary County. We're told he's 5'10" and weighs 175 pounds. Go. Start. Investigators were out with dogs searching the property for any leads on where Canada might have gone. It's been just over a week since another inmate walked away from the prison. Richard Schell was confirmed missing last Tuesday morning, but was found Wednesday afternoon in Lexington. A DOC spokesperson says Canada would have been eligible for parole in a year, August 2016. In Lexington, Garrett Weimer, WKYT.
And anyone with information about where Canada is right now can call Kentucky State Police or Lexington Police. A Clark County man was in court today after being charged with killing a man back in May.
Roger Kinney appeared before a judge for a preliminary hearing. WKYT Sam Smith talked with the victim's aunt, who is hoping for justice.
Roger Kinney was in the courtroom today on 2 matters. The first, felony possession of a firearm, possession of stolen property, criminal mischief, and escape. The second matter was a murder charge. Investigators say on May 9th, deputies tried to arrest Kinney for those possession charges, but he escaped from the cruiser. Investigators say the next day, he killed Daryl Wiseman. Late last month, a man found Wiseman's body after that man finished mowing Kinney's property. That man said he smelled a decomposing body. Kinney was later arrested in Ohio and would eventually be transported back to Clark County. Kinney is still in custody. He appeared in front of Judge Hardin in cuffs. While standing alongside his attorney, he decided to waive his case to the grand jury. The murder victim's aunt was in the courtroom today. I talked to her after the hearing, and you'll hear from her coming up at 5:30 about how she's grateful for all the work investigators have done so far. In Clark County, Sam Smith, WKYT.
Kinney's wife, Deborah Jean Prater Kinney, was arrested in Ohio. She'll be brought back to Kentucky and will likely be charged with tampering with physical evidence in relation to this murder case.
State police are applying for a nearly $2 million grant to help with a backlog of rape kits. The state has almost 900 untested rape kits at the state crime lab. It takes several weeks to process each kit, so many of them are left in evidence rooms for years at a time. WDRB-TV in Louisville says the grant would allow the state to send untested kits to private companies for processing.
We know it may sound like a broken record, but it has been another nice day of sunshine, mild temperatures out there here in the bluegrass.
It's a broken record we don't mind recording. So when can we expect this pleasant pattern to change? Let's check in with a man who knows, Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey.
You know what? We've got a few more days left in the tank of the gorgeous fall weather here across central and eastern Kentucky. I know you got to check the calendar. Pinch yourself, make sure it really is August out there. Gorgeous skies again in Lexington. On cue, a little more cloud cover developing through the heart of the afternoon. Overall temperatures, though, into the low and mid 70s, generally 71, 72 across much of eastern Kentucky, 74 into Lexington, down into the Richmond area. If you're out and about this evening, it's another nice one, but a quick drop in thermometers as soon as the sun sets. You've got all this dry air that is in place. Dry air, well, it cools very quickly, especially if we can get rid of some of those clouds, and we should see some of the clouds begin to get on out of town very late tonight. Overall, though, the fall feel is going to continue for a few more days. Then we inch closer and closer to the weekend, guys, and we are tracking a few of those changes that we talked about yesterday, and I'll let you know what that means for the weekend forecast as we break it down in greater detail when I come back here in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Chris. 3 soldiers happened to be at the right place at the right time to save 2 Ohio women who were stabbed in downtown Louisville over the weekend.
The victims, a bride-to-be and her sister, were out on the town for a bachelorette party. As Maria Ansari reports, the soldiers got to meet with the recovering women.
You go to 4th Street Live in downtown Louisville to have a good time. That's what Sergeant Micah Stoke, Staff Sergeant Joshua Smith, and Staff Sergeant Katie Gavoni planned on doing this past weekend.
Talk about right time, right place. Yeah, I hadn't even intended on going out that night.
Based out of Fort Knox, they were out celebrating the last week of Army recruiting and retention school when things took a shocking turn.
Towards the end of the night, we headed towards a hot dog stand, and that's when we started hearing yelling and screaming. And, you know, initially you think, oh, it's, you know, Saturday night down at the bar, it's going to be, you know, somebody's drunk. And then you really started to hear it in these young ladies' voices, like, help us, help us, help us, help us.
The screams coming from Melissa and Sherry Snader in town from Cincinnati, celebrating Sherry's upcoming wedding. They were staying at the Econo Lodge near 2nd and Liberty and were heading back to 4th Street Live around 2:30 Sunday morning when they were approached by a man on a bike who stabbed them both. Adrenaline must have kicked in because the sisters somehow managed to run down to 4th and Liberty for help. The 3 soldiers immediately jumped in and started giving Sherry and Melissa first aid.
The bride-to-be was stabbed underneath the breast area, and then her sister was stabbed up on the upper chest area.
Sergeant Gavoni is a medic instructor.
We started CPR on Sherry on scene. We actually lost carotid pulse for a minute, and it was very, very scary for a minute there.
I called 911. The sister of the bride-to-be was actually coherent enough to relay information to me about the suspect.
Sherry and Melissa each suffered a collapsed lung and have been recovering at University Hospital. On Monday, the 3 soldiers wanted to meet the young ladies they saved.
Your last impression of them is laying on the concrete bleeding. You know, everything's going on 100 miles an hour, and then to see them yesterday, just it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it.
They were talking, sitting up, breathing, and they're on their way to recovery because of our efforts.
The 3 say they just did what any soldier would do. They may have very well saved Sherry and Melissa's lives. Now their lives are also forever changed.
I've never been in a situation where somebody's thanked me for saving their life, and that happened yesterday, and that's something I'll remember till the day I die.
They are certainly lucky.
3 heroes. Retailers selling a Caitlyn Jenner Halloween costume are facing major backlash on social media. That story coming up on WKYT News at 4:30.